Welcome back to another episode of Movie Mayhem. As always, I'm Spanky.
I'm G-Unit.
G-Unit. So we appreciate you guys bearing with us during this break. All these future episodes are going to be recorded with G being remotely phoned in from parts unknown.
It's going to be kind of like the Howard Stern show from now on.
You're going to be hanging out with Carmen Sandiego. No one knows where you are. You're off the grid.
That's right, I'm protesting.
Quick shout outs to the Metal Matt podcast, Chucky 115 Awesome. He made a couple tribute videos the other day. They were pretty cool. Simon Gray and his Ballad of Tiffany Valentine. That thing is still going. It's going strong. It's very interesting. He made
a trailer for it.
Yeah, he made a trailer. It's pretty kick-ass. Get you hard. Stuff like that.
Get you hard.
Whatever. Don't hate.
Get me gushy.
Ugh. Speaking of gushy, it's kind of a line in the movie we watched. I don't know if you remember it, but anyway. Yeah, so anyway, for this week, I'll also check out Chucky's Playground. Obviously, that's where all of this shit goes down.
That's right.
So, but anyway, we'll jump right into it. This week we watched a movie. It's one of my favorites, and it was like a first time for G as usual. Well, she's heard bits, seen bits from it. And this is from 2010. It's called Super. And it stars Rainn Wilson, Ellen Page, Liv Tyler, Kevin Bacon. Those are the more notable names that you're going to recognize. And the way I learned about this movie, which once you hear about, once I say this, it'll just snap for a bunch of you and you'll be like, but when I was surfing the internet, years ago, it's like I saw this animation of Ellen Page in a red and green superhero outfit.
Yeah.
And kind of what the fuck is that from? And it's from Super. So, and that's kind of how I learned about this movie, and I love it. And it's one of those ones where I've never seen previews for it. I've never seen trailers. Kind of slid
on HBO sometime.
Oh, Hibbo or Hobo or whatever HBO is. But, so anyway, the synopsis, it's a superhero movie, but it is not your typical Marvel or DC. It's not even as, fantasy as Kick-Ass.
I was going to say, it's more of a humble version of Kick-Ass.
It's very until the end, but it's very realistic and very odd. I would say there's a little bit of dark humor in it.
Yeah.
And Rainn Wilson is the lead character. He plays Frank Darbo, who he is a fucking cook at a fast food place-ish.
At a diner, yeah.
And he's married to Liv Tyler, who's Sarah, and who was a waitress there.
Yeah, she's also a recovering alcoholic.
I think she was drugs.
Oh, drugs?
Yeah. And,
both. She said it went all in.
Yeah. And, the whole thing is, one thing I never got is how the fuck does he afford a house if she's a waitress and he's a fucking fry cook?
They could be renting.
It's true. But anyway, Frank is kind of like a loser, I guess.
Yeah, socially awkward.
Yeah, he makes little drawings about dreams he has, and one of his dreams is
perfect moments. He makes drawings of his perfect moments.
Perfect moments, and like, one of them is he helps a cop stop a criminal.
Yeah, because it starts off with two. One when he married Sarah.
And the other one, and Sarah is kind of like, she annoys me most of the movie, but, like, because she, like, criticizes his drawing. She's like, why are the hands so big? And whatever. And then, one day, like, there's been signs of Sarah relapsing. Like, Frank walked in on her getting high with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And then one day, what is it, like, Kevin Bacon, who's the main antagonist in this movie named Jock. Well, Frank spells his name Jock, like Jock, but it's like...
Like those dweebs from high school.
But it's really like the French spelling, Jacq. Yeah, like Jacques. But he kind of is like a sketchy fella, and he comes in while Frank's cooking eggs and just kind of eats with him and then leaves, asking if he's seen Sarah. And turns out Sarah disappears and he's hanging out with Jacques, and he's kind of like a drug dealer, you find out, criminal, and he's got her back on drugs again, namely being heroin.
Yeah.
And Frank tries to go to the cops, but since he's really fucking weird about it, like, he's like, the cop just kind of takes it as, like, the wife left him.
And honestly, like, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't come to the terms that, like, yeah, the drugs lured her in, but she did leave him.
Yep. And that's where, like, I think, there's this horrible fucking TV show. It's called The Holy Avenger, where there's this Christ-like superhero, and he's preaching, like, and that's Frank, he's not, like, super religious, but...
No, but it was just on TV. And that just reminds me of the actual Christian superhero called Bible Man.
Yep.
That I'm very familiar with the many weekends at my aunt's house.
I learned about it when I was a kid because we had Christian people in our neighborhood, and that's what they were allowed to watch. So
Bible Man.
So yeah, this is like the Holy Avenger. He just really, like, silly, campy superhero TV show, and
for teens to, like, not lure them into the life of cigarettes and fingering.
These nipple rings are coming right off. And fucking... And then that's where, like, Frank gets his inspiration from. And there's some cool quotes that, like, some of his children are chosen. Or, like, all it takes to be a superhero is, like, the choice to be brave or something, or the choice to do good. And, like, that's when Frank has an epiphany one night.
Weird-ass dream.
Because he was turning and there was tentacle porn on TV.
Yeah, weird anime.
And then it's like all these tentacles come and, like, they rip open the top of his head. And then God reaches down and just touches it. Yeah. Now, I want you to guess who is the voice of God.
Oh, no. Not Morgan Freeman.
Nope. It's someone you wouldn't think.
I already don't know. Who is it? Give me a hint.
He's a musical artist.
Dio.
No.
There's so many musical artists. That's a shitty hint.
He's also a director.
There's a lot of those, too.
He's done a remake that a lot of people don't like. Of a slasher.
No. Rob Zombie?
Yeah.
Rob Zombie?
Yes.
People like that.
That a lot of people do not like his new Halloween movies.
That doesn't even sound like him.
I know, right? But it's right there on the IMDb page.
They fucked with the zombie's voice.
Yeah.
Rob.
But anyway, like, he has this vision where he's touched by God, and he gets this, like, idea to become a superhero. And he becomes the Crimson Bolt. And he, like, dresses up in this red jumpsuit and goes and tries to fight off, like, a drug dealer. Mm-hmm. And he kind of, like, fucks up and he runs away.
Doesn't he get, like, a hatchet?
No, like, at one point he tries to confront... This was the night he had the epiphany, I think. He tried to confront Jacques and his, like, entourage, try to get Sarah back, because you can see Sarah was really drugged up.
Yeah.
And Jacques and his goons beat him up. And, but, like, and this is where Ellen Page comes into the mix, because she works at a comic book store, and that's where Frank comes in. And he was looking up... Yeah. He was looking up, Holy Avenger comics. And Ellen Page plays Libby, some, like, cool, hip, and quirky young girl that's in the comic books. Like, it's like a ripoff of every Zoe Deschanel role. And... and,
Even Your Highness?
No, Your Highness is different. But, like... And they kind of form, like... She's very outgoing and very rambunctious.
I can't stand her throughout the entire movie. Her laugh, her, like...
She has
really
a very annoying laugh.
Bony body.
And eventually, like, she becomes, like, Frank's go-to. Like, he asks advice about, like, superheroes because he's like, I need advice on superheroes that don't have any actual powers. And so she starts rattling off these superheroes, and, like, she accidentally mentions one who does have superpowers, and she's very overly apologetic about it. And, like, that's where Frank gets the idea to make a weapon, and he pretty much just spray paints a fucking pipe wrench red. And so that's where the comedy kind of comes in is, first of all, the intro to this movie is trippy as balls.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and...
I was partially...
And, like, so then there's a montage of him just beating up fuckers with a wrench. Like, he beats up the drug dealer. He beats up a child molester. He's waiting in line at the movies, and someone cuts, or butts. That's what, because a butt is when it's a Chinese cut. So.
What? There's no difference.
You know what a butt is when you cut someone and then you go behind them. It's a Chinese cut.
No. Go behind.
No cuts, no butts, no coconuts.
What do you mean go behind?
Okay, when you're standing in line, there's someone in front of you. When someone cuts you, they just go in front of you. When someone lets another person butt, that's when they let them get in line behind them. So they essentially let them cut them and then get behind them. It's like a Chinese cut. Girl, you never ran things on the playground? You're so oblivious to how these little schoolyard tactics work.
I just waited in line.
Oh, shit. That shit didn't happen in my place. I grew up in the hood. Tough streets.
We're too polite. Are you fucking kidding? We're too polite.
But anyway, there's a person who butts in line, and Frank gets mad, and some people voice their opinion, and the guy's like, fuck off. What are you going to do about it? So Frank wanders off to his car, puts on his costume, and hits the fucker with a wrench.
And this is when you realize that Frank has some psychological...
He's a little psychological. I think he catches like a fucking purse snatcher by dropping a cinder block on his head.
Yeah.
And, like, so that's making the news of this masked guy, like, beating the shit out of people.
Because they think he's insane.
Yeah, and so there's one detective that, like, when he filed his paperwork against Shock, like, the cop had to tie it up so it could be over with, just have Frank sign it saying he wasn't pressing charges. So he comes and visits Frank, and he has, like, a really weird encounter because Frank has his costume and shit hid in the closet, and he's constantly staring at it. And the detective's like, "What's in the closet?" And Frank's like, "A dog." And the detective's like, "Oh, let me see the little guy. I love dogs." He goes, "Oh, he
Those are the
bites."
people he hates.
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, he won't bite me." And he goes, "That's who he likes to bite the most." The cop's just all weirded out, and Frank signs it and leaves. But that's when, after a while, like, the cop puts the pieces together and realizes Frank is the Crimson Bolt. That's on one end, but the other end is, like, he tries to go to Jacques' compound to save Sarah one day, dressed as a Crimson Bolt, and they start shooting at him, and he gets hit in the leg. And that's
So
when...
is this already when...
This is when Libby finds out.
Yeah, it's gonna be like...
Because the thing is, everyone knows, like, every one of Jacques' like crew, they know that Frank is the Crimson Bolt. They can tell.
Yeah.
And Frank gets shot in the leg, and he goes to Libby's house, and she kind of, like, patches him up. And, like, she finds out that Frank is a Crimson Bolt, and she's fucking ecstatic because she's all for someone being a superhero. And that's where she, like, gets her own costume and proposes to be Frank's sidekick.
Yeah.
And that's where she dresses up as Bolty. And she's wearing the fucking yellow and green spandex.
I don't know what color it is.
Oh, yeah, because you're colorblind. And they kind of go out on a couple ones, and as I said, like, fucking Ellen Page in this movie has, like, ADD. She's fucking super hyperactive. She can't sit still. She gets bored just standing there on patrol with Frank.
Yeah.
And then she makes up a
She's
lie.
Insane and annoying bitch.
What?
She's insane as, like, bitch. She's super annoying.
And, like, she kind of lies to him about someone who keyed someone's car so they would go visit him. And she almost kills him. And Frank is, like, considering firing her or whatever. And he stops to get gas, and some of Jacques' goons are there. So, like, what do they kind of, like, chase after him and start beating him up. And that's when Bolty just fucking wrecks him with the car. And the funny thing is, like, she was halfway changing in the back seat during this. So she's just, like, in her bra. And it's Ellen Page, so her tits are like mosquito bites. And
everything is small on that bitch.
The bitch looks like a Ethiopian dipped in Elmer's glue.
What?
That's how, like, bony and she is. Like, and so, and that's when, like, they're kind of scared. Like, they go to Frank's house to try and confront him, and they're looking around, and then the cop comes in because the cop realizes Frank is the Crimson Bolt, and they accidentally shoot the cop because they thought it was Frank. And then it kind of gets to the weird scene where Frank has been staying at Libby's the entire time because his place isn't safe. And, like, I think they're, like, he's laying in bed, and that's when Libby comes out in her Bolty attire. She's trying to, like, seduce him.
Yeah, it was really disturbing.
And she's talking about her vagina. She's like, it's so gushy.
Ugh, that's not how you describe your vagina.
And Frank's not having any of it because he's loyal to Sarah. And
so she essentially raped him.
yeah, but she puts the mask on. because, like, it's the whole whatever superhero thing. Because she's insane. Like Frank is a little unbalanced, like, but Libby's, like, fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And Frank, after he fucks her, he gets sick and he goes and pukes in the toilet. And whose face does the puke take? Is it...
It's Sarah's.
Yeah, and it talks to him and it's like, the time is now. And that's when there's another montage where they go to a store and just start buying all these guns and bazookas and all this gear. And they go to a shooting range and start practicing, and Frank's learning how to make pipe bombs and shit. I think Libby has like some Wolverine claws. And they prepare to storm Jacques' compound.
Yeah.
And this is the same night like Jacques has some like Nigerian dude willing to buy all the heroin.
Yeah.
And he pretty much pimps out Sarah. And she doesn't want to go, so it's like... And that guy was creepy. He's like, come on, pretty girl. I got the best brown. And the part about that I didn't know was, like, he's a black dude in Nigerian. Was he talking about his dick or the heroin? Because heroin is, it's referred to as brown.
Is it?
Yeah.
See, I'm so naive to the drug scene,
And, like, that's when fucking, Frank as the Crimson Bolt and Libby as Bolty storm the compound. They just start killing fuckers. This is where it gets insane. They're shooting fuckers. Frank's throwing, like, pipe bombs and shit. And then it was kind of bittersweet because, as you said, like, it shows Libby, like, stabbing people with the fucking Wolverine claws. It's a bittersweet moment because she's annoying as dick.
Yeah, when she finally gets her fucking face blown off.
Yeah, some guy with like some Magnum fucking...
I'm like, finally.
Shoots her and like she's laying down and Frank's like, no! And he kills the guy and then he goes to her and like the top quarter of her face is fucking gone. Her head is like gone. And that's when Frank kind of like turns it up a notch and just starts even killing fuckers harder.
Yeah.
And he like even does the thing where he sets a trap where he like hangs a body from the roof and swings it in the window. Yeah. So like Jacques' like two top goons or whatever, they start shooting at it and then it turns and there's a note on it that's like, look behind you. Like that's some Friday the 13th shit. Like
it is.
And then he kills one, and then he kills another guy by smashing his head against the corner of the fireplace or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like a concrete corner.
That left a dent.
That always kind of makes me cringe a little.
Yeah, it was pretty graphic, the end part.
And then, like, the Nigerian guy comes running out, like, what's going on? And, like, Jacques kills him. Just because he can. And, like, and then it's like the final scene. But Jacques shoots, like, well, Jacques like, you fucking want Sarah, take her. I don't want her. Get the fuck out of here. And, like, Frank's about to take her and leave, and then Jacques shoots him. And Frank has a bulletproof vest on.
Yeah.
And he gets, like, shot in the...
And he corners him, and he gives, like, the best seat.
Yeah, like, he's, well, after, but, like, he, like, Frank made this weird thing that was really cool where he squeezes it and it shoots, like, a fucking blade out, and he shoots it right up into fucking Jacques' gooch.
Yeah.
Oh, and then he's laying down, and, like, Jacques is like, you think killing me is gonna make all this stuff? You think it's gonna make you a better person? And all this shit, and I think, like...
Well, because that's when Frank was like, you don't sell drugs, you don't molest children, you don't butt in line, you know?
Yeah, it was always funny, like...
And then that's when Jacques was like, do you think killing me is gonna make drugs stop? And he's like, I don't know unless I try.
And he fucking stabs him. You don't sell drugs. You don't molest children. You don't butt in line. You don't prey off the misery of others. The rules were made a long time ago. They don't change. Like, it was just intense as fuck. And Rainn Wilson does, like, such a good job in this movie.
He does,
like,
yeah.
I didn't really know much of his work. Like, I've seen him here and there in different shows and whatnot.
Well, he's known as The Office now. That's what he is.
I first remember seeing him in House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah. And that makes sense. If he had any... Because since that movie, he is friends with Rob Zombie. And if he had anything to do with the production of the movie, he probably...
Yeah, well, the movie's made by James Gunn, who was also in the movie. As one of the goons. But, anyway, and so he kills Jacques, and then it's kind of like, oh, it was over. Like, it shows...
And then Sarah's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Frank puts Bolt... Like, you don't know what happened with Bolty's body. Like, how did the fallout of this happen? Because, like, Frank puts Bolty's body in an SUV and puts Sarah in the front seat.
In a river.
And he drives away, and it shows, like, Sarah patching Frank up. And it's kind of like the closing monologue about how, like...
Sarah ended up leaving him and a few
Well,
months later.
like, yeah, because, like, Sarah needed him to save her, and, like, he was there for her, but even more importantly, Sarah needed her new husband, and, like, the three kids.
She found somebody else,
and it ends on, like, it's such a hard way to interpret the ending, because I take it as somewhat happy, but it's still fucking twisted.
Yeah, I take it as like I'm sad. Like it sucks that he. Well, it seemed like he ended up alone, but
He got the rabbit.
He still has such a huge part in her life, and he knows she ends up having 4 kids with this guy.
And they all call him Uncle Frank.
Yeah, and then
They
you
send
see
him
the wall,
pictures.
and it's not only like every moment is his perfect moment. Like anytime anyone says hi to him, or
Yeah. So, like, he's now happy.
and he got a cat, or no, he got a rabbit.
He got a rabbit. And, oh, a little known trivia for you. You know the lady in the pet shop for the 30 seconds she was in there?
She looked really familiar.
She was the main chick in Freaks and Geeks. She was also...
She was Velma from fucking Scooby-Doo. Okay.
Or the blonde chick from Grandma's Boy. Yeah. But, yeah, so he gets a rabbit. And it's like... And it just ends with him, like, sitting on his bed with the rabbit, looking at all these pictures, and then he's crying. And then it's over.
Yeah.
So, it's a very dark humor, drama. It's a very different superhero movie. Like...
Yeah.
And I don't know, how much did you like it?
I liked it. I know you're gonna hate me because you love this movie, but I liked it more than I did like Kick-Ass.
Well, that's at some points I do like this movie more than Kick-Ass. Like in certain parts, like it's not as epic as Kick-Ass or Kick-Ass 2, but it's much more.
I know you absolutely cream over Kick-Ass 2, but I prefer Kick-Ass 1. But
Yeah.
I prefer Super over.
So I love Super too as well. Like.
And honestly, I'm not like a lot of superhero movies, like Captain America, Iron Man. The only superhero movie that I really like are the Batman movies.
Oh, with Bane.
So, like every.
Good evening, Batman.
If they added Harley Quinn in the movie, which I believe they are, this new coming one, don't be doing the Bane voice.
Harley Quinn, Batman. It's time for Gotham to burn.
Yeah. No, but because I love Harley Quinn and whatever, so that's pretty well the reason why I love Batman. But I don't like super, like, really superhero movies because they're not realistic.
Well, I know what you're talking about, like all the super like comic-based ones.
Yeah, and I mean, even Batman, I think the reason why I like him is because he doesn't have an actual power.
Yeah.
He's smart as shit.
And even Kick-Ass is based on comics, but the
Yeah.
comics were even more over the top. But yeah, like, I love this movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I would definitely watch it again.
It's definitely like a diamond in the rough. Like, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what it was. As I said, that fucking animated picture of Ellen Page. It just intrigued me. It's like, where the fuck is this from? And it led me to search, and I found this movie. So, I would recommend it. Obviously, G recommends it. So go out and fucking watch it.
Yeah,
I don't even know,
it's good.
like-
It's not very long.
It's 90-something minutes.
An hour and a half, so.
Yeah. I think there's boobies at one point.
So it's like the Everest College commercials. You're just sitting there on your TV, pick up the phone, just do it.
Go to Education Connection for free. But
Become a dental hygienist or something.
yeah, vaginoplasty expert.
Dream job.
Yeah, like, I think Rainn Wilson really fucking nailed it in this movie. I know he's done. He was had a small role in Juno with Ellen Page.
Yeah, he played the
Store clerk.
convenience store guy.
This is one doodle that can't be undid. And he's obviously, he's in The Office. He was in one of the Transformers movies. He was in The
House of a
Rocker.
Thousand Corpses.
Yeah,
He was young in that movie.
he was. Wasn't he turned into like the Mermaid Man?
Yeah, I believe so.
He was in Galaxy Quest. That was his like second acting role. So he was one of the aliens. But anyway, check it out. You're gonna enjoy it. Especially if you like seeing Ellen Page get shot.
Yeah.
In the face.
Ooh.
So we don't know what we're doing next week. We'll figure it out.
There's some ideas floating, but it's going to be recorded like this, as Spanky mentioned. It's going to be like this for a while, but then after this kind of rough patch of remotely recording, it's going to be HQ for everybody.
Oh yeah, girl. So, just thanks for bearing with us. We appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And just stay tuned next time, and we'll get you a solid movie out there. So, as always, until next time, stay classy.
See ya.